evening, everyone, and welcome back to Braw Cast. I'm Billy Kirkwood. Yes, Braw Cast is back. We just keep coming like someone that's not done it for ages and finally gets a shot. The way it works here on the show is it's not just a talk about, it's a lifestyle podcast is what this is. We get to talk about people's careers, we get to talk about what they're up to, what they're thinking, we get to say have some fun and make connections with you sexy motherfuckers wherever you're watching all around the world. Before we kick things off, it is the festive period and the window is just about to close for you to order some Braw Beard gear. So why not get yourself over right now and check out all the stuff at brawbeardoils.com and of course check out on social media as well. We're going to be going right through New Year and Christmas as well, so make sure to check out. We've got some special guests on the way. And talking of special guests, this is weird because over the last year that we've done this, I've got to interview people from, I've got to interview MMA fighters, I've got to interview wrestlers, I've got to interview tattooists, I get to interview explorers, I've got to interview all manner of things. I have not got to interview many comedians, and I'm delighted to say the two of the comedians that I'm interviewing today are two of my absolute favourites of all time. I don't know what they're going to be saying right now. That's probably the nicest thing I've probably ever said about each other. I don't know what to say to them. I'm watching them squirming at the moment. I don't even want. This is awkward. This is awkward, really. Is anyone else erect? It's just me. All right, okay, well, I'll soften this bad boy down and get on our special guest for today. Would you please welcome award-winning comedians, two of the most fantastic, frantic comedic minds you're ever going to come across, and two of the most imaginative gentlemen, I think, in all the arts here in Scotland. So please would you welcome, absolutely wonderful, Stu and Garry! I even brought you in the right order as well.
You did. That was technologically superb, Billy. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are you both well, gentlemen? We'll get that out of the way.
Yes, thank you. Very well. Very well.
Sure.
We're both doing that thing. We're all doing that thing where we're saying hello and asking how well we are, despite the fact we've already checked in with each other before we started recording. How weird would that be? How weird would that be? We already know that. Well, we'll reveal it. Stu may or may not have a package arriving at some point during this podcast.
That's right. And not in a sexy way.
Not in a sexy way. So I tell you what, the anticipation's on. Place your bets now. Place your No.
All right, now I should say the package should be arriving within the next 19 minutes.
Holy shit!
This podcast could be a damning indictment of the Royal Mail's current delivery patterns, and it also could be used as Exhibit A in some small claims fraud trial.
Nice. We're calling you out, Royal Mail. I was trying to think who runs the Royal Mail. Is it the Queen? Does the Queen?
The Queen herself. Yeah. It's probably Princess Michael of Kent who's going to be delivering it by hand. She's a minor role. She has to drive.
It's mostly the swans that do the admin.
Oh, is it really the swans that are handling the admin?
Well, swans will deliver some of the packages because obviously the drones are just too gauche for the royals. A swan adds a certain amount of elegance. Mind you, you wouldn't want a swan delivering your massive widescreen telly or something.
Well, apparently we had
take an army of swans. Is it a flock of swans? A barrage of swans?
I think so. I thought
a zeppelin of swans.
I thought it was a meringue of swans.
That's only when they're sort of dead but pre-cooked.
Oh, right. I still remember.
If you can hold a swan over your head and it doesn't drip, then it's a meringue of swans.
It's fully whipped, soft peaks.
I still remember the street I grew up in Irvine. One year, my dad chasing a guy away from the front door because he was going around trying to sell a giant goose for Christmas, but it was in fact a swan he'd killed from the local pond.
Really? that's virtually Dickensian.
My dad knew fuck all about birds, but he knows it. To quote the man himself, rest his soul, to quote the man himself, I know a dead fucking swan when I see one.
Look at the neck on that goose.
Exactly. Guys,
it was his signature. Come on.
Get in, ladies. It's over. Right. Wow. Shut comedy down. I
don't have a mic, but it's a pencil. You get the idea.
I think I missed you.
Oh, dear. Gents, I was trying to think of how long we've known each other, and it's easily, 13, 14 years? I couldn't have been long in comedy before. I was aware of Stu and Garry. I was a fan. I was a fanboy. I had the weekly binder that you worked up so you could build your own Stu and Garry. As long
sticker album.
Yeah. The sticker album and all
that.
The
first issue cost 99p and the rest of them were $8.99.
Yeah, exactly. I'll level with you. The building up of Stu and Garry, I only really got to like halfway up Gary's shins, and I went, we can't afford this.
Yeah,
we
can't afford it.
We're trying to buy swans at our front door. Things aren't going well. Things aren't going well. You know what I mean? But it's been a while. How long would getting it out of the way? We'll get the number. We'll get the figure out of the way. You both come from different places in terms of getting into this. But what? How long have you guys been working together? If you were to put a figure on it, first of all.
I know pretty much exactly.
Oh, here it comes. Can you give me the date?
It would have been 1993, and it probably would have been September, October,
Yes.
1993.
Wow.
Yes.
So what first? But before we get to that point, because I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know. Well, because when you're creative, so you're comedians and you kick around each other, you throw dates around. I did this, I did that, I did this. We all do it. Stu, when did it kick off in terms of performance for you?
I was living in Blairgowrie on my swan farm.
Fucking geese.
Geese.
You have to train a swan to become a goose.
You do. Has to walk with a book between its legs and all that type of thing. My Fair Lady style-y.
And the correct term is trans goose.
Ah, I see. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I've forgotten your question. No, I haven't. What it was, I was living in Blairgowrie and came through to Edinburgh for one performance of a play the group I was a part of had done at the Bedlam Theatre. And on the same day as our performance, they had an improv comedy workshop. Right. So I went and did that and had great fun and had a talent for it. So decided a couple of months later, I moved through to Edinburgh to pursue that. And I've been here ever since.
Oh my God. And that I mean, you would have, if you've been involved with theatre before that, were you aware of improv? You would have been aware of what improvisation meant, but were you aware of the vein, the genre, the sort of subgenre all of its own?
Well, the reference everyone gets is whose line is it anyway? And I'd obviously seen that on the TV. What it meant was this was the first bunch of people I'd ever met who did it. Mm-hmm. So I went along there, did a couple of workshops, as it turned out, and then got invited back to do shows. Then I moved through to Edinburgh with a couple of friends. And so something like 3 or 4 months after I'd done the first initial workshop, I was doing the Fringe with these people.
Oh, wow.
So
it must have been a very different world in 1993 in terms of that sort of route into the arts. Oh,
completely. I mean, this was a university theatre group. I wasn't connected to the university in any way, but they didn't care about that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I just did it. So I think my third show was my first Fringe debut show.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And you just walked
in the door. It was just that good. You see, I just rose to the top like cream in a life jacket.
You just watched, not an expression. You just walked in the door and they went, look at this stud muffin walking in, cut us off a piece, get him on the Fringe. Well, there it is.
Who's that guy in the peacock feathered fedora and the opera cake? We've got to have him on the show.
Well, that certainly was the garb in Blairgowrie.
It certainly was. In there with the Blairgowrie opera cake, massive.
Garry, what was your journey into sort of improvisation? What was your journey into that?
Well, when Stu arrived, I was already part of that troupe.
Okay. It's your fault.
In 1990, I'd returned to university after a year off through illness. I was invited to go and see a show because our pal was in it, and it was it turned out to be the improv show.
Okay.
That was on the Friday night. My pal invited me to the workshop the next day, so I went to that. I went to the one the next Saturday. Was invited to the Players' Workshop on the Wednesday and was in the show the next Friday. So 2 weeks after seeing the show for the first time, I was in the show because, cream in a life jacket.
Exactly. The old improv expression.
Thank you.
As they say. But when Stu arrived, when Stu first arrived for the Fringe in 93, I was actually away that summer.
Oh, right.
So I didn't meet him until I came back and rejoined the troupe, by which time he was, let's say, established. So I don't really remember our meeting because I wasn't there for his kind of like first few shows, as it were. But
you just arrived back to see me on the throne.
That's right. But by 93, I was still part of the troupe, even though I'd finished university, and as Stu says, it was a university troupe, but they really didn't care that much about that.
All right. Are you sure?
At the time, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd finished uni in '92,
Right.
which doesn't date me at all, but we were still part of the troupe, and I kept on going with them for a couple more years before branching out.
92.
A few more years we were there, yeah.
Yeah, a few more years.
That's crazy. So, in terms of improvisation, if anyone is watching, I mean, you did mention that that obviously there's the show that everyone knows, Cream in a Life Jacket. Sorry, whose line is it anyway? Which I believe was its original term, was Cream in a Life Jacket. All makes sense now.
Yeah.
That's the reference everyone gets. There is an element of theatre sports to that as well, which is
yeah.
sort of subgenre. But how exactly I know you have to do it all the time, but I can't think of two people better to explain it. How do you explain that to someone that has only ever came from the sort of path of the stand-up comedy and the sketch comedy? What the hell is improvisation?
Well, improvisation is using lessons you've learned from stand-up comedy or sketch comedy and utilizing them on your feet. Mm-hmm. Improvisation is not a skill that every comedian has, but it's a valuable skill to learn, especially if you're going to be interacting with a crowd. It's because it's thinking on your feet, but then having the I suppose the confidence to just say it in a determined, authoritative way that people will believe it.
Yeah,
and once you do that.
I would add to that as well, Stu. I would say that like improvisation is a skill and is a tool used by actors. But it's the difference between like using it as a skill and as a preparation device, and the difference between that and actually taking it onto stage and performing it. That's where a lot of the stand-up skills come into play as well. So there is a definite crossover between comedy and acting. Now, a lot of
I'm so sorry, Billy. I'm just gonna.
I was about to say, is that light bothering you?
Coming to me. I'll back in a second.
Well, it's not sparkle. He's getting dazzled.
Sorry, Gary. By all means, continue.
No, that's pretty much what I was saying. Like the most improv that you see isn't elevated.
Yes.
You know that because it's primarily a skill. It's primarily a tool. But when the difference, there was a big difference between what we did at university times, where we were an improv troupe and people were coming to see us as an improv troupe, and there was a big transition between taking that and taking that onto the stand-up circuit.
Okay.
Where you can't just be theatrical; you've got to be fucking funny as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like certainly if I'm trying to think of no one's seen it. There's not a lot of examples in sort of mainstream media of almost long form or, like you say, theatre sport. I can't think of a lot of examples of that on mainstream media, long form or theatre sports, or just being allowed to let improvisation really breathe. I can't think of a lot of examples of it. In film, perhaps. But not really on TV or something like that.
Well, maybe something like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where they say, "Well, here's the ideas for a scene."
Fair. Yeah.
But but we're not giving you the script. We want you to get from A to B. Just use your own words, type thing.
Yeah. This may be a little bit of an example of that. Now, what I've got to ask is, so where do we move forward from this? How do you guys eventually end up working together? Because it's not just a straight, like, one day you went, oh, this crazy kid, Stu and Garry. That wasn't how it sort of came about to be, unless it was, I don't know. What was the journey for you guys actually making that movement within the comedy scene, did I suggest from?
Well, the timing was everything, really. We were very lucky to be in the right place at the right time, sort of thing, because we'd been with the Improverts, or theatre sports as it was then, for a few years, with its ever-rotating cast of new students and as people graduate and leave, sort of thing. But then the Stand Comedy Club sort of started up. This was before it had its permanent premises, and the Stand Comedy Club was more of a collective performing in pub basements. Yeah. And that sort of, it still survives to this day as part of the have a go ethos of getting people up for Red Raw and what have you, just beginners to try stuff out. It's a very welcoming environment. And we emerged on the sort of ground floor at the same time they did. And because the Scottish comedy circuit was even smaller than it is now, and it's still quite small, most people knew each other.
Right.
And so they knew what we could do. They had seen what we could do. And so we could get spots on their show and we would do well. And so as they moved into their premises, the sort of group of Scottish stand-ups and the group from the Improverts sort of went up there and everyone had a go. Some people lasted at it and some people didn't.
Right.
And even in those early days, there were a few of us that would do the improv, but just as time went by and other people grew up, there was really Stu and I were the ones that were left.
Yes, because we don't like to grow up.
I was just thinking, as other people grow older, Gary.
Well, no, they grew up. They grew up. They got day jobs. They got families. They got commitments. And we were probably the ones that were left going, this is what we really want to do.
Yeah. You sort of found your comfortable zone, your comfortable space, your passion going. Some people are like, well, I've always wanted to be an investment banker. I am going to work on that. But you guys were, this is for me.
We wanted poverty and artistic dismissiveness.
Yeah.
Yes!
I mean,
yes.
I'd spent a while mainly wanting to act, but then the comedy started paying, really. I mean, there was just more avenue in it.
Yeah, it's had you done a lot of acting? Because I know you've done bits and bobs. I know you appeared in a feature film about zombies in football a couple of years ago.
Oh, shut up! Well, actually, the
worst porno ever.
The summer that Stu joined the group back in '93, I said I wasn't there that summer. I was in America doing some filming.
Supergran.
Yes, Supergran, the American years. No, I was in a feature film that an independent that was the runner-up at Sundance the next year. So I was with that.
And it was
and then when I came back, the Four Corners of Nowhere, directed by Steve Shabosky, who wrote The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And when I came back from America, the first thing I did while Stu was in the troupe was I was in a play at the Lyceum with Brian Cox, The Master Builder by Henrik Ibsen. So I was really in this kind of acting vibe at the time.
You mean the actor? You meant the actor Brian Cox?
Yes.
Yeah, not Professor Brian Cox. That would have been very serious.
Listen, everyone else knows him as being Professor Brian Cox. I know him as being the keyboard player from D-Ream. Thank you very much. But that's it. So, I mean, there was a body of work there from acting.
I'd done stuff. I did a couple of plays in the 90s that were shortlisted for things.
What about you, Stu? Was there an interest in acting there? Because you've always shown such a natural flair for it, and I know you've done bits and bobs. Had you done a lot of that?
I've done bits and bobs to a lesser extent than Gary, but no, it was improv I wanted to do.
Right.
So that was where my focus was. I sort of like went in and out of doing stand-up, and it sort of never held the same sort of the thrill of being on stage and working without a net. That's what I wanted.
Who would you say were your influences, Stu, especially in those early days?
Who would you say was your influences, Stu, especially in those early days?
First of all, how dare you fucking speak to me? Second of all,
because I can think of a couple of you.
Go on.
I would definitely say Les Dawson. In terms of
yes, there were certainly comedians I like that. Yeah.
But in terms of delivery and things like that, and the kind of like the verbosity, the kind of the wordiness mixed with the puerile was.
Yes. Well, Peter Cook was like that for me as well.
Yeah.
So I always like it still amazes me how many comedians never use an adjective or an adverb. Describe what you're doing or add another dimension to it. I still remember being on stage with you two and having you both just creasing with laughter because I played the receptionist at a hotel. And I said, welcome to the Jubilee Hotel where the whores are sluiced hourly. It's just that unusual word, sluiced. The pair of you and the audience as well. Blown away. It's a short. So yeah, the verbose comedians, I suppose. but I would magpie influences from all over.
Yeah, I loved it. I love the idea of you noticing when comedians weren't using adjectives, and after every set, when someone had done really well, you would walk onto the stage and go, "This is very good. This is very good." Now, let me tell you everything that was wrong. First of all,
here's a list of doing words.
First of all, you could have like a red pen where your teacher went, "Should use such and such."
Exactly.
I think
he said it was nice. You won't see him here again.
But things get going. So the scene, it's hard to describe the Scottish comedy scene to anyone that's not been in it, because I think there's a real sense of, I think it's just comedy in general. There's a real sense of smoky pubs in New York and big sprawling. People don't really get what the comedy scene is very like, and it's a wonderful place. Don't get me wrong, even for a second. But like you say, it's quite small in Scotland. But you guys become a regular fixture with the Stand Comedy Club in its regular home. And I know, of course, you have worked in other places. Of course, you've worked in plenty of other places.
Yes.
But the Stand is very much your home. Now,
oh, yes.
So where did that connection kind of happen in terms of like, welcome, we're going to make you a part of our regular lineup? Like you said, you mentioned the whole getting up and having a go attitude and making those connections in those early days when it was in the basement of a insurance, was that an insurance company or something? I can never remember. Or lawyers. It was in the basement of a lawyer's, I think, and now it's in a regular, now it's in its own home. But you guys become a part of the regular lineup. Like you've got your Friday and Saturday night big shows. Where do you guys lock in?
Well, two guys from the Improvisers show, Paul and Jack, they got on board with the Stand, and what happened, they did a 2-man improv show.
Right.
Which before we had even started doing that kind of thing, and they were doing it every Sunday at the Stand. This was when the Stand was open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that was it.
Okay,
I think. And so it would be a free show, which was perfect for the Stand. And as time went by, I took over from Jack, and then Garry took over from Paul. It was all the set. We were the same sort of core group, just sort of filtering through. But it was perfect for the Stand.
Yeah. We did Fringe shows together as a collective. In those days, we were the Stand players, I think, weren't we?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, right.
That's right. But when the Stand was kicking off, we offered the improv could be a free show that they would put on.
Okay.
So we would get stage time and a little bit of money from them. And it would be a way for people to come in and say, oh, this is what it's like. It hasn't cost us to test anything out.
Okay.
And because you'll be amazed, you'll have heard it yourself in Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Newcastle, people saying, "Oh yeah, the Stand. I've never gone in there, but I've often meant to."
Yeah.
And so it was that kind of thing of getting them through the door, and then they can say, "Oh yeah, it's nothing to be scared of," or "It's a lot better than I thought it would be," sort of thing, and then they'll start to come back.
So we became a kind of gateway show for punters.
Yes.
And we've always said, even during the show, even back then, you're free to leave anytime.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's no commitment. But like back in those days, as we said, we were also a collective. We would do Fringe shows together with like the 4 of us plus guests as I think the Stand players. And then it came a point where it was always Stu and I that were doing the Sundays, because we'd maybe do a bit of rotation as I say, when Paul would want a Sunday off, I'd jump in.
Right.
And it got to the point where it was definitely just me and Stu left. And there came a point for a rebrand, and it was like, well, we want to do this on the circuit as well. We don't just want to do the Sundays.
Right.
We want to do it on the circuit. So we need to we need a new identity. And that's where we came up with the brilliant idea of calling ourselves Stu and Garry.
I have to ask, just because I want to see what the reaction would be, Garry and Stu was never on the cards?
Doesn't work.
It doesn't flow as well.
That's fine. I'd agree, and I'd agree 100%.
I like being the afterthought. But also there was, I don't know if they're still around, but there was a couple of Scottish magicians on the scene. This was later. This was long after Stu and Garry were a product.
Right.
But they came along, very good Scottish magicians. I don't know if they're still based in Scotland, but they called themselves Stuart and Barry. Or Barry and Stuart.
Wasn't Barry and Stuart Alan Cummings and Forbes Mason?
No, I don't think so. No, this was a separate variety act.
That's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, they were Barry and Stuart. So can you imagine if we were Garry and Stu and then Barry and Stuart come along? That would have been just people
That
expecting us
sounds
to
like
do
a
magic.
more formal Stu. I mean, I call myself Stu because, you're going to be loose, you're going to have a good time. If I said Stuart, you don't know what to wear and what spoon to use.
Exactly. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Bowing would become important whenever someone was bringing you on stage. But you're right.
By the way, fucking hell, Royal Mail.
Oh, it's still no sign?
Are they past the deadline, Stu?
Motherfuckers.
4 minutes past the deadline now.
Well, there it is. In terms of
state bullshit.
In terms of your Sunday show, though, it becomes like an entranceway, and it becomes a very much a phenomenon in its own right. Because, like you say, you get people that are spending time in Edinburgh. They've come to Edinburgh for the weekend. They come down to check out the stand from all over the place, having gone from being an audience member to performing alongside you guys on those shows. I don't think Edinburgh is known for its eclectic international audiences. I don't think there is another show in comedy anywhere that gets the type of crowd you guys get. From an old lady with knitting and a dog to like an international BDSM model from Norway. It's a little bit of everything, and they're all enjoying the potato wedgies, and they're all managing to get there.
We'd have regulars, and by regulars I mean we'd have like a group of Japanese tourists who would come every year to and specifically see us when they were in town, and maybe 20% of the group spoke English.
Oh, wow.
But they came back time and time again.
They came back time and again. There was always photographs afterwards, but this was part of their cultural tour of Edinburgh when they came to Edinburgh each year as their little tour group.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's great. But yeah, it's just more. Many times we've wandered into the venue as the show is about to start, and we'll see people sitting there waiting, eating their food and getting ready for the games to kick off, and we'll see a pile of luggage in one corner of the room because people go, yeah, we'll sit there, then we've got to catch our plane and catch our train, but we'll go straight from here to the train station, especially now the trams have been built.
Yeah, but it's not just the punters, Billy. What's really nice about that Sunday show is
fucking sun in my eyes again. Excuse me, I have to shout at the celestial heaven.
What's really nice about that Sunday show is the fucking sun in my eye. No, it's you're getting headliners coming from around the country and around the world to play the stand on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it's enormous joy for us when they're put up the stand, put them up in accommodation, and some of them will say, "Can I stay an extra night so I can play with Stu and Garry on the Sunday?"
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that for us is just phenomenal because you'll get people who are. They do their job on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and just want to laugh on the Sunday.
So, in terms of doing the live shows, because it really is a joy to watch and a joy to be a part of. What is your? I hate asking phrases like "What's the secret to longevity?" because it's just a cup of coffee in this business. We all know it. It just goes by in the blink of an eye, doesn't it? When you say longevity, it's like I've been doing this for 60 years. It's like
exactly.
It's not really that, is it? One thing, what is, because playing with you guys from month to month and seeing how you both clearly still love it.
Yes.
Because the euphoria of being on stage, whether it's us doing the Monday night improv show online or going back to doing live, God, let us do it live soon. What is your favourite bits about still performing, even from just games or things that might even trigger each other that you just go, I love this?
Well, there's an old thing that's always been asked of us after a show. Someone will come up to like, is it really improvised? Is it?
Is it?
And we go, yeah, it is. It is. It's like, so you don't write it, you make it all up. I'm like, yes, we do. And but the thing is, if we did write it, if we did script it, it just wouldn't be as fun for us.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects, it's always fun. You know this because we do it with you as well, and you do it with us. If we can if we can do anything to put you on the spot, then the crowd is going to want to see it. We're going to want to see it, and you're going to be the one there going,
yeah. I would say
it'll work. Everyone on board. So yeah,
I would say he will
put me on the spot, and I will do the same to him.
Yeah,
and I would say another aspect that is unrivaled in anything else is the sharing aspect. It's that shared experience, not just with each other, but with an audience.
Yes,
a stand-up does this. Will do the same set. for their year and then change it up, or the fact that
a year, Garry, come on, a year, come on, come on,
regular fringe shows. But you know what I mean? It's like there's that sharing of it's with an audience. It's a moment that is ours and will never happen again. And it's that shared experience that they have contributed to. Some of the great comics, some of my favorite comics do that. They share a laugh rather than imposing a laugh. Yourself and like Joe Heenan's wonderful at it, sharing a laugh with people, not just imposing material on them. And that to me is the deepest joy, is that shared moment. When you're on stage and you're playing the audience, you're riding the laughs, you're kind of like you're molding it as you go, and you end up with something that's ours as a collective.
This is a very good example of both of these. It was once at the Sunday show, we were doing a scene and the audience had asked us to do it again as a musical. Right. And the premise for the scene was zombies. So it was a zombie, the musical. So I was the zombie and Garry was the professor or something like that. So he goes on and I had to be the singing zombie. And then, so I'm just about to launch into this song, but all I've said so far is brains. And he goes, "You're going to do it, aren't you?" He's just into the microphone. So everyone, "You're going to fucking do it. You're just going to sing brains over and over again, aren't you?" Brains. Brains. But the audience is willing it on. So he's trying to put me on the spot by making me sing as a zombie. I've completely co-opted it and everyone's with me. And now we're all laughing at Garry because he's just so angry.
Yes, and having to carry the entire scene in terms of rhyme and lyrical form.
Yes, exactly. So I just remember the entire room being completely on board. And even just a little smile on your face can really get everyone.
I do remember seeing you guys play Gamecube. Should have said once. Oh no, not should have said. It would have been questions where you can only speak to each other, and it was only a question. And I can't remember which one. I think it was you, Stu, that turned to Garry to ask him his question, and it was like two spacemen or something. And Garry answered every question in Klingon, and you might have even said, "Are you really going to do this whole thing in Klingon?" And then Garry continued to respond. And you talked about that shared experience of a room of people going, that's bullshit, but we are on board. We are on board.
Exactly.
And we are going to watch Stu get angrier and angrier. Should have said is one of the most nightmarish games in the world to play with your pals as well. Another example, when you've got to change what you've just said, the audience should have said. But particularly when you're playing it with your friends, because like you say, you are trying to fuck each other, if you'll pardon the expression, you're trying to fuck with each other's stuff on set.
With each other, yes.
Well, yes, with each other is what I should have said. Right. Cream in our life jacket, I'm going to be remembering that all day. But watching people pimp upon each other and just getting sillier and sillier and sillier and sillier is one of the most nightmarish and exhausting things as well. Particularly when I think as well, when the other people on stage, they won't stop you. Like, when you're a comedian, you need an element of self-control, but when you're, like you say, you're going without a safety net, you'll just keep going. And chances are most other comedians, they have your back. I mean, they'll reach out, and it's all about, giving the offer and accepting the offer.
We're putting you on the spot. We're not going to watch you drown.
Yeah, but you might.
We'll watch you around a little bit.
But we
gargle a little bit.
That ice is thick enough to hold your weight. Off you go.
Yeah.
What happened? How funny. Let's pull them out.
I'm sure, and I certainly won't do it now, it was the Japanese game show host, which I was picked up by a member of the audience, which I thought, this is going to get shut down within about 2 seconds. No, you fuckers let me go for 10 minutes. In the form
it was very funny. It was very, very funny. You were doing great.
I'm glad to hear there's no video.
I'm very culturally sensitive.
I thought so. Oh, don't. No, come on.
You'll relieve Billy of his exceptionally racist fan base.
I need those guys with the little flags. And
they can't spell, but they turn up.
They turn up with their little Union Jack flags and their Twitter handles and their timeline with them hugging terrified-looking kids. And a sea of unsatisfied lovers.
Always different kids.
Always looking good.
It's always different.
Yes, but any other moments that you think really stand out and why? Because it feels like you have accomplished so much, and obviously you still have ambitions. The world's is shut down just now, which is a massive pain in the arse.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, they still like. I mean, I know you've toured with the likes of Tom Stade in the past, which one of the biggest compliments I think I can give from anyone I know. Like whenever anyone says, "What shows should I go and see?" I say Stu and Garry, because if you are a comedy fan, if you're a stand-up fan, that's fine. You can watch that at Night at the Apollo. It can be replicated live. But everyone I know that has ever come to see you guys have all been like, "That's my new favourite show.
Yeah,
that's my new favourite show," which must be really gratifying.
Yeah, when I started at the very, very beginning, I made myself a little promise that I didn't want to repeat myself. I wanted to be completely improvised every time, and so to do this, I thought I would remember every game and show I did,
right?
And I would never go down those particular roads again. But as the years go by, I can't remember over half of the stuff I've done. And there are some great moments, like when, again, Garry, you call it pimping, when you make someone do something in a scene. Garry pimped on me because it was, he took a suggestion from the audience of Bollywood musical. Okay. So we had to do a Bollywood musical, and he knew full well I can't do an Indian accent. So if I try an Indian accent, it inevitably comes out Welsh. And so he built this up. We both, knowing what would happen, we built it up. It's like, it's coming, it's going to be horrible. It was a Welsh accent. And this full room of people just, I walk on, it's like, "Hello, it's a pleasure to be here from Bangalore." And the whole room's losing it because we've built it up in such an expert way. But one of the most gratifying things about doing the show is, like you say, when you see comedians in the audience and they're having a good time, and the staff at the back of the room. If you can make the staff laugh.
Oh yeah, who have seen every
when
joke,
they work in a comedy
style.
club, they're so jaded or whatever by seeing so many comedians do the same stuff every time. So to get the staff and other comedians, that's the.
I believe your original question was about ambition there, Billy. I've never been ambitious with it.
Right.
But the one ambition I've ever had, the one thing I've wanted to do is just to keep doing it.
Yes.
I feel like, because I feel like I'm without getting all Charlie Sheen about it, I feel like I'm winning because I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of folk managed to do
5-year plans.
Maybe managed to do it for 5 years or 10 years, and then spend the rest of their life looking back on it and saying, "Oh, those years were brilliant." The fact that we are still going, the fact that we still have a product, that we're still doing something, to me is a fulfillment of any ambition I ever had.
Oh wow!
And long may that last. It's.
He just wanted to meet the internationally famous members of the Norwegian BDSM scene.
Yeah, I was just thinking those
that
guys
you mentioned before.
Well,
because they have to be internationally famous, because the Norwegian BDSM scene is notoriously small. Like
I'm a big fan of BDSM. Who else is going to teach you how to drive?
I can tell a joke and whip a troll.
Well, listen, it's the gig to get, and the chocolate afterwards.
Oh,
filled with pubes.
It's a kind of surprise.
We very briefly though, Garry, and it would be ill to be at this podcast and I'll talk about that your stupendous looks over the years. Now, the reason I say that is because Stuart Murphy looks like Stuart Murphy did pretty much when I first. I mean, there's not been a glimmer of change. I would suggest.
No.
Garry Dobson has gone through virtually every type of look, from what we see right now, which is an element of Slatty Batfast from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, I love you for that.
A little bit of Dumbledore squeezed in.
Squozen
in, schlused in, shall we say.
Celine Dion, the trauma years.
Yeah. Garry, well, how would you describe the beard you're rocking right now?
Well, I mean, in terms of like my overall look through the years, I've said it before, I'm having a bad hair life. I mean, I'm just kind of white stubbly. Well, not even stubbly. I'm kind of I'm enjoying the beard because it's the beard is turning white where the rest isn't, and I'm a wee bit annoyed because some bits aren't quite wanting to turn white yet. So I keep shaving it off and growing it back in, hoping that at some point it'll just all be white.
Do you know? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say I've had a longer beard. I've had that. Remember that jobular goatee I once had?
I love the goatee. I love the goatee.
At one point, it was a 14 tabber. That's how you measure a goatee. Was by how many cigarettes you could put in the goatee without them falling out. So at one point,
I'll level with you. We've been doing this podcast about a year. That's the first time that expression has ever came up. But I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of beardy fires going on over the Christmas period.
I had a not rollies, proper tabs. I had a 14 tabber. Having a beard did get me work once,
right?
Because remember when I did that online tenants commercial?
Yes.
They were looking for someone who looked like a schemy werewolf, and that's how I got that part.
That's how you got that.
Was that the brief?
No, I wasn't aware that was the brief until I turned up and that was the part I was playing.
You're going to be playing a schemy. I wonder if that exists anywhere. I'm going to have to try and look that up. If there is a video of the schemy werewolf from back in the day. Well, I
think not every vampire can be landed gentry.
No,
absolutely,
that's very true.
Some are very working class.
I've always wondered if vampires like cold-blooded, if vampires like hot-blooded creatures, would they drink a snake's blood to as something refreshing because it's cold? Like, I don't know. Would drinking snake's blood be like 7-Up?
Right, like a sort of iced coffee type thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people who eat soup will have a veg smoothie. I don't see the difference. Are you suggesting it's the warmth they're after, not necessarily the, hemoglobin?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying, do they like cold blood as something refreshing?
It could be. I don't see why not.
I'm just wondering. I did not think this would get monster related at the end, but as my two favourite monster hunters on the Scottish comedy scene, which we're not really meant to talk about, I know, but you're both based in Edinburgh, still trying to track down Jekyll and Hyde. I'd like to wish you the best of luck with that.
I just want Hyde. Jekyll's fine.
Okay, that's is Dr. Jekyll the bad one?
No.
All right, I can never remember. It's hard to
Dr.
tell.
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. How could it be a bad one if he's been to university and studied to be a doctor?
Maybe he's a teacher. Mr. Hyde's a teacher. I made some unbelievably sound teachers in my time.
Well, he's a teacher who hasn't applied himself to get a nominative degree.
Or maybe he's a doctor in something that's not related to science, and therefore certain people are upset about it and shouldn't be using the title doctor. Current political.
I don't see how Jekyll and Hyde have anything to do with the US election. But then that's just me. And I know that's you as well.
Well,
me as well.
This is certainly taking a turn that I did not expect seeing. But there it is. Gentlemen, this has been an absolute delight. I have so many questions, but they would get so geeky and into the weeds on it that I think we would...
And it just shows how little we talk in real life.
It does, actually. It does. I think I'll start doing a podcast which is just Billy talks to Stu and Garry about things. We're always moaning. It always starts off with a moan. We're usually fucked off about something or someone, and then we'll all turn up and we'll go, we got to stop talking about them. So,
right, look at how he's dressed.
Oh, bless him with his shirt and his tie. Anyway, he's not here. He'd fucking love it if he knew we were talking about him right now. He'd fucking love it. He'd be jerking himself off like a Spaniard on his roof. That's all we've got time for. Gentlemen, what's a good way of people getting in touch? I know there's not official Stu and Garry merchandise on the market yet. But... Is
there unofficial Stu and Garry merchandise? I can't believe. I bet you. I'm not a racist, but is it a Chinese knockoff?
Yeah.
This is the 1987 Gary Dobson.
Yeah, I had rumours that there were Stuart Murphy in action figures.
That's true. That's true.
That's it.
Just as there is the Gary Dobson Play-Doh hair salon.
That's right.
You can stick your little thing of Gary, and then Play-Doh will come out of his head.
Yeah. And you get these full body pillows with just the word sarcasm written on them. That's part of Stu's merchandise.
He's got
That's true.
A trumpet sock. There's the Stu and Garry trumpet sock.
That's true.
As well. Yes. There's the Stu and Garry soda stream.
That's right.
We can buzz. Should have said buzz again.
Exactly.
Where you need to be.
If people want to get in touch with me, there's a bench in the park that I frequent when it's not raining.
And Stu?
The Monday night improv page.
Yes.
We've been doing these things. That's probably the best way.
Yep, every Monday night, totally improvised show made up entirely your suggestions with these sexy bastards very much at the helm.
It's a lot of fun to do. It's building up into a nice little community. So there's little messages and videos go up there all the time. And we see the messages that go on.
Yeah.
But yes, you can go on there if you want to get your Stu and Garry cheese grater cum ped egg set.
Yeah, and it's a nice way to know it's Monday.
It's a nice way for Garry to know it's Monday as we go into this festive period. Come on and remind him he's a person. I think it's very important because there was a couple of weeks there back during lockdown when he was convinced he was a Yorkshire Terrier and would look confused and lost, like he was waiting for his master to come home.
I had to turn around like 4 times before I sat down on the sofa. It was dizzyfying.
You came back to us though. We appreciate
I recognised your smell. Simple as that.
That's true. Just have a sniff. There it is. Oh, there you go. See?
Yeah, there's my boy.
There we go. Right. That was the weirdest end to a podcast ever. Gentlemen, I will stick you back in the green room and we'll say our proper goodbyes. Thank you very much for what was a journey into madness I don't think any of us had foreseen. I'll pop these in there. I'll talk to you in a second.
Braw Beard as well.
All right, that's all we got time for this episode. Make sure to check out Monday Night Improv and, of course, our friends at the Stand Comedy Club and everything that's happening right here at Braw Beard. John's going to be putting up some videos over New Year. Don't forget these to check out as well. We want to make sure that not only is this looking good, but up here is good as well. We do our mental checkouts as well. Oh, and very carefully, once more time, make sure to head over to brawbeardoils.com. Make sure all the stuff. Hey, listen, they might not be able to do Christmas delivery, so we might be getting to the end of that. But why not buy something for someone between there and New Year? Or get that jump start and looking sexy as fuck. Imagine you decked out in Braw Beard merchandise with your beard all looking nice, your butter on, and you're starting the year full-blown Pumpageddon. And if you don't know what that is and you're watching from someone else on the planet, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You're going to get some. You're going to get some. I can feel it. Getting some is not a guarantee of brawbeardoils.com. Right, I'm Billy Kirkwood, and I will see you the next time. Will I manage to start the video without looking at it? Oh, you're talking.